Hey, folks, happy Friday and welcome to the Freedom from the Press podcast. My name is Jason Robertson, and I'm here with my partner in crime,
Todd Peterson. Thanks for joining us, folks. And Jason, I think we have the perfect title to invite all of the trolls on Facebook. And look, trolls, we're here to change your minds. We're here to present some facts. But yes, right now, Dems have intentionally ruined America. And Jason and I have the proof because we're going back in time today to say it wasn't always like this.
Yeah, and I got to say, as we always look forward to, hey, what are we going to talk about on Friday? Todd and I kicking around. And what is it we really want to hone into? There's all kinds of podcasts. There's all kinds of entertainment that you can partake in. And hey, shout out Kagan Girl, always a first chat. Francis is here. Bubba's here. Do us a favor, hit the thumbs up, hit the like, comment, share button. Help us get some reach on the podcast. But we're here to tell you, no, you're not crazy. Yes, these things are really happening, and we're going to break it down. And today, we're going to zoom out a little bit. We're going to take a little historical perspective, because as you look at some of this stuff and you just ask questions, like later on in the second segment, we're going to talk about Mr. Beast building wells in Africa. And we're going to zoom out on that and go like, are you kidding me? But we got to start with some fun news from this week, Todd. This is one of my favorite things I've seen. And Donald Trump, in his presidency, has done so many things to fight for America, to make life better for us. Do you want to break this down with the new census, Todd?
I don't think people fully appreciate, number one, how many illegals are in this country. I am seeing estimates of anywhere between 80 to 100 million, and I believe those numbers. My entire life in the 90s, they're like, we have 30 million illegals. And then ask anyone today, they're like, we have 30 million illegals. And you're like, well, that doesn't make sense. Joe Biden let in like 20 on his own in 4 years. But all of those illegals, folks, are counted in the census every 10 years. And the figures that the census arrives at are used for apportionment of House seats. They are used to award states electoral voters every presidential election cycle. You as an American citizen are underrepresented by your government because illegals count towards creating districts in states, towards awarding California some 55 or whatever electoral college votes that they have. Your entire life, illegals have counted to strip you of your representation, your representative government. And Donald Trump's just like, no, we're not doing this anymore. Illegals, you are here. You shouldn't be here. Right now you get welfare. Right now you get to be counted and all this stuff. And game is over. So Donald Trump is instructing his Department of Commerce to conduct a new census and only count American citizens. And Jason, this is now controversial that we are only counting American citizens in America in a census to determine who represents our good people here.
Well, and I got to say, my wife doesn't follow politics near as close as I do. And when I was talking about this census thing, I like to use her as a litmus test to like, how would normies potentially feel about this? And I got to say, she nailed it. She said, well, if we count illegals in the census, we're giving them electoral college votes and we're giving them House representative seats in those states. So if there's a bunch in it, I'm like, that's exactly it. How do people not understand this? Because everybody wants to make the argument. It was kind of like with Medicare and Medicaid when Trump kicked the illegals off, and everybody's like, oh, you guys are so stupid. Illegals can't get Medicare and Medicaid. And then as soon as they are removing them, suddenly it comes out they have all these backdoor angles to get Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP money, all the government assistance. Even if they can't officially sign up for Medicaid, they're still getting all the money, right? And now Donald Trump with this census, he comes out. Now the Constitution says you do a census every 10 years. You set out how many electoral college votes people get. You set out how many members in the House Representatives they get. And ever since Reagan like made everybody legal back in the 80s, we've just continued to let these millions of illegals in. It ramped up under Biden. And now President Trump said, enough, let's count. Let's have American citizens determine your representation in Washington. I don't know how that is controversial. Todd, other than the left are losing power, why do you think they're losing their mind?
Well, I'll tell you why, but David Himes chimes in. I'm trying to rhyme with your last name there, David. Legal Americans. What's so hard to understand? No issues, no foreigners, Americans only. This should not be controversial. Your government exists to protect you as an American citizen. But Elon Musk was talking about this before the run up to the 2024 election when he campaigned for Donald Trump. And he was like, look, Democrats don't care about the lives of illegals. They don't care about what happens to them when they're here. That's why Joe Biden lost over 300,000 kids at the border, trafficking humans, trafficking drugs, inviting criminals to the country. They don't care about these people. They care them about as a pawn for power, a useful resource to accumulate power. Democrats wanted to naturalize the illegals here so they could all have a right to vote. It would eliminate swing states. But in the meantime, Democrats knew the more illegals they imported in this country under the old operating system, okay, we got more illegals. So that's great for our census count. That's great for our apportionment of House seats. That's great for the Electoral College. Democrats invited illegals by the tens of millions, perhaps hundreds of millions into the country simply for power, for attaining power. And you got these Dem voters out there that are like, no human is illegal. We're rich enough to afford all of them. So they believe all these lies about everything else, but they ignore the reality that Democrats don't care about them as people. You want to use them to grow more power.
Well, and let's be fair. Democrats are okay too if the illegals go work in the fields for, 12 cents a day or whatnot,
Correct.
rather than employing an American. But so, I mean, they're okay. I mean, they were the party of slavery and
Jason, I take it back. They don't want 50 white South Afrikaners in the United States. That's too much. They don't want conservative Cuban refugees coming to America. That's too much. They want a very specific kind of immigrant, the one that adores socialism and will vote Democrat every single time.
Right. Now, just to give everybody some historical context, some legal precedent, and that we like to try to educate you on this podcast. Sometimes we do full educational episodes, but to explore the census issue overall, the Constitution spells out you do a census every 10 years, then you appropriate House seats and you appropriate Electoral College representatives. Right now, nobody knows exactly how many illegals are anywhere, so everybody's guessing. But they're the best guess I've seen from the people who have like flushed out the data between like how many illegals are in counts of like welfare programs, that kind of thing. If we only counted illegals, they're projecting it would give 20 to 30 seats in the House to President Trump. And we're not even talking with the gerrymandering, which I am all for. Like, let's gerrymander like the Democrats have been doing. I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just doing what they're doing. But without the gerrymandering, just counting citizens, you're going to see a 20 to 30 swing vote in the House. Now, imagine the House of Representatives with 30 more conservatives, especially if we get the right ones. Second thing is imagine next election, 2028, where you would wipe out just the whole swing state model, because the way these seats would shift around, you would give a very good path to a Republican conservative, hopefully J.D. Vance or somebody of his ilk, candidate to win in 2028. This is huge. Now, you will say, has this ever come up before? They've passed a law in 1975 that let you do the census more than once every 10 years. And the law was basically, we understand with how population grows and shifts, it might be more prudent to do the census every 5 years. Donald Trump, in a secondary case, for leading up to the 2020 election or census, he actually wanted to do this last time. And Democrats sued. They wanted illegals counted because it's racist if you ask them citizenship. And it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said there is not enough relevant justification to warrant this question on the case. And now I think that was right in the middle of all the crazy stuff going on, the cities being burned down. I mean, it flashed back to 2019, 2020, all the stuff going on in the country. But right now, I think if I'm a Trump lawyer, I say, hey, listen, this lets us change the census, do it more often. And then here's our predicate. Right now, representation on states is radically off from where it should be. Todd, I think they got a case. What do you think?
I think they have a case, and this is a great point. So Donald Trump tries to do something, and the Supreme Court says, no, this is too politically motivated. we can't do that. That's too political. Doesn't this happen every single time? Democrats will punch you in the face. And as soon as you punch them back one time, they're like, why are you punching me? No, you guys have been counting illegals for 50 years, and I want to stop counting illegals. And now suddenly this is a political issue. We need to stop playing defense. We need to go on offense. Donald Trump he's on the right side of morality, fairness, justice, all of it. This is not plain politics. This is just bringing politics back to where it simply belongs. Enough of getting pushed around by this weak communist establishment government that always pushes us in one direction. As soon as we push back, they're like, hey, why are you getting all political about this? Enough of it.
Right. I got to hop in the chats too, Bubba. We might have to talk about this one. No dual citizenship holding office. Todd, for those who didn't see, Todd does his own podcast on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now, for those who watch our podcast on Friday, we do all platforms for the first hour. And then the last half hour, 45 minutes, we do Rumble only because we express some opinions that might be a little spicy. And if we said some of the things we want to say, we got to watch out because there's a bunch of Karens. We got like Julie on Facebook. Get off my Facebook. And we'll get reported and Facebook won't like some of the things we say. So we cover that Rumble only. But Todd broke down some of this stuff on his podcast on the Rumble channel Tuesday, Thursday. So yeah, that's something we can go into. We got Mark over on the Facebook. I believe illegals have no rights in America and should not be counted. It's just another way of cheating. Besides, we don't want them to take over our country. Absolutely. Hey, we got Kevin over on the Rumble. Todd, you want to hop in on some of these? These are great comments.
These are some great comments here. Carla's on Facebook. Round them all up and send them back. Richard says Democrats need votes. They give them everything. Yes, this is what they do. They buy votes without USAID money and without stealing your tax dollars and giving it to some voting bloc. The party simply doesn't exist. Natalie's just chiming in. Absolutely. Wanda, kind of echoing what we said here. Great comment, Wanda. The Dems are using the illegals as pawns for power. Just more corruption. You nailed it. And we got Jennifer Johnson saying the American Tribune. That's right. We are the American Tribune. We have properties all over the place. We're on Facebook, X, YouTube, Rumble. We got a great website, theamericantribune.com. We got 12 breaking news stories every single day. You can go to our Substack, theamericantribune.news. Jennifer was not expecting me to list all of our properties. But there you go, Jennifer. Thanks for prompting that comment.
And Francis, Todd gets it. Francis, I got to say, I've started listening. I do a podcast with Wayne Dupree Monday through Thursday. Wayne's a little cleaner than Todd and I get on the Rumble only. So there's a shout out to the Rumble only. But it's fun because as I'm getting ready and like looking at the news, I'll listen to Todd's podcast in the morning. I'm like, yes.
If you thought I was agitated on our podcast streaming on Facebook, folks, you got to check out the American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson. It is just 1 hour of me basically screaming. I am so fired up about some of the stuff here. And yeah, Bubba made the comment about no dual citizenship. If you guys didn't hear the story, I covered it for an hour on Tuesday, but I think her name is Dalia Ramirez. She was born to an illegal mother in Chicago. So because of birthright citizenship scams, she is now an American citizen. She's in Congress. She's given a speech down in Mexico City in Spanish, and she says, I am proudly Guatemalan first and America next. I had a lot of comments on that. But Jason, this does tie into, I think, what's his name? Brian Mast from Florida has dual citizenship with Israel. Like, this is not a uniquely Democrat problem. This is a problem across the board. You should be allegiant to America. This is not complicated. Apparently, this is controversial too now. You should be an American citizen and put Americans first. That's it. That's like the bare minimum requirements to serve in Congress. But we can't even have that.
Right. We wonder why we can't have nice things. And, man, some of the comments too. I'm trying to figure. Oh, Anna, yeah, you were pulling it up too. You're a bunch of idiots, blind and evil. I'm wondering if she's talking about the Democrats or us. Because if you're talking about us, either way, Anna, you should tune in, hang out. We're gonna give some history. We're gonna play some 80s clips. We're gonna have some fun today. And for those who are new to the podcast, Todd and I get on here every Friday shouting in the interweb because we need you to know, and we need to know we're not alone. People see that this is great. And I gotta say, of all the policies people want to scream at Donald Trump about, counting only citizens to appropriate Electoral College votes and House of Representative votes should be the least controversial thing ever. I can't see any argument Oh, yeah. She
All right,
says
Jay,
Trump
I got to jump
supporters.
in, Jason. You were
Stick
making
around, Anna. We'll help change your
All
mind.
right, Anna, I just got to say this. Thank you for sticking around and following up with the first one. So now we've clarified that Anna called us a bunch of idiots, blind, and evil. Anna, I'm going to zoom in on just the issue of immigration. Can you defend in the comment section Joe Biden's wide open border that allowed 300,000 kids to go missing, millions more trafficked into the country, untold quantities of drugs trafficked into the country, the importation of violent criminals from prisons and all around the world? How is that better? How is it better to have America invite the rest of the third world here? How is Trump the bad guy? How is MAGA the bad guy for saying we're going to secure the border because a sovereign nation has a right to secure its own border? We're going to prioritize American citizens. No tax dollars are not going to be used that are stolen from me already and then handed over to these illegals that, by the way, are only here. We already made the case so that Democrats can accrue power. You are not a better person, Anna, because you vote to steal my money and hand it to someone that isn't even here for the reason you think that they're here. They're here only for Democrats to accrue more power. They're getting used like you are getting used by Democrats, mindlessly buying into their propaganda. But yeah, you let me know how Joe Biden was such a good guy and Donald Trump's the bad guy here for closing down the border and keeping you safer.
You know what's funny too? I don't know, Anna. I'm going to make some assumptions here. I am saying that in no part of civil society in America would anybody accept people being places they aren't supposed to be. If I go to the Costco's going to ask me for my membership card. If I walk into a sporting event, do you have a ticket? If I go into even a public place like a courtroom, there's only places I can and can't go. Why is America different? And that's where I think some of this breakdown is these people make this intuitive leap saying they should be here, and we don't accept that in any other part of civil society. Why should we accept it in the country as a whole? And now Anna comes in with a good comment, the way the admin is doing deportations, so taking innocent people. Okay, Anna. Hey, we have a point of agreement. So I'm assuming that means you agree illegals shouldn't be here. Then how should we remove them? It was funny. I was tweeting about this earlier because somebody's like, oh, I can't believe Trump's doing it this way, or asking, going up to these workforces and asking them for their cards. No Democrat can offer any explanation for how you want them removed. But maybe if Anna's coming around, she has a Chicago thing in her background. So Chicago, I don't know if you saw that this morning, Mayor Johnson came out and said, our city is totally broke. We're going to have to raise property taxes again, although they voted it down last time. So, yeah, come up with your solution. How do we get people out of here? But I got to say, forget Biden.
I was going to jump in on this one. Anna, I appreciate that you are sticking around. This is the first troll Jason that's ever just not dropped a comment and bounce. But forget Biden. Look at the president. If you're going to talk about Biden, Obama, show the proof. Anna, we showed you the proof. Joe Biden let in like 20 million illegals. America operated with a compromise of like, look, we don't love that they're here, but we need a few million to work on the farms. They're doing some of the labor that whatever, maybe people don't want to do. I disagree with that, but whatever. Joe Biden broke that unwritten, unspoken compromise and flooded the nation with people. It is exactly the reason we have to talk about Joe Biden, because how else, like Jason said, are you supposed to remove all of these people? If we took the time to vet and investigate and have a hearing for 100 maybe million illegals in this country, it would take several lifetimes to remove them all. It is Joe Biden's fault that we are doing that. So yes, now Donald Trump has to come in and remove as many as possible. This is not, don't talk about Biden. Yeah, just ignore all the bad things he's did. We're in the present here. Anna, it doesn't work like that.
Right. And I mean, we have ways to identify some of these folks through court cases, but judges won't let ICE grab them and deport them there. We've covered issues like that. We've talked about, hey, identify them on like benefits or have them identify themselves on the census. All that's bad. But the problem is, no one will answer the question on the left, how we get these people out of here. They'll use these glittering generalities like they've got due process, or they've got, every human is, no one's illegal. Tell us how to do it. And by God, we'll use whatever platform we have if you have an effective plan. Personally, I love that Donald Trump's getting out, but we might have a good point of agreement with Anna that illegals need to go. I mean, that's what I'm hearing from her comment.
She kind of said that. And honestly, I don't want innocence taken either. But I will say this, Jason, I am coming around to the terms that birthright citizenship is a huge scam. It needs to go away here. You might have a piece of paper that says you're an American, but like I made the point on Tuesday in my show about Delia Ramirez, or whatever her name is, this Illinois immigrant-born representative, she might be an American on paper. She is not an American. She has told us herself that she's not an American. She identifies as a Guatemalan here. So you tell me what an innocent illegal or an innocent immigrant looks like here, because I'm at the point where these people are ungrateful, unappreciative for what they have. They want to ruin this country, and why should I have to put up with that?
Right. And I got to say, we have been so open as a country. We send millions of dollars, trillions of dollars around the world. We give unprecedented freedoms. I will argue no other country in the history of the world has a better quality of life than the average person in America. And, foreshadowing, we're going to be talking about Africa in the as we get to the end of the first hour and transitioning into Rumble only. But it's incredible, and people don't appreciate how historically amazing life is. And I think, Todd, that this kind of drives into kind of the next topic we're going to talk about. Like, growing up, I was born in 1974. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. Looking back, I had no idea how good we had it. And Todd, you're about 10 years younger than me. Did you have any idea how good we had it?
I mean, I'm biased, Jason. I think the 80s were a great time to be alive. I think my childhood in the 90s was peak American living here. And so I was young enough you don't even ask questions. You just had a great childhood. Life was wonderful. You got along with everybody. And I know you went to a school that was racially diverse. I grew up in a community that had some diversity, but honestly, either way, you didn't really think about it. You're just like, is this a cool guy? I'll be friends with this kid. He seems fun. He's nice to hang out with. He's good at sports. I like sports. You just didn't think about any of that stuff. And then it all changed. It all went to hell. And that's because life was too good. And Democrats and the establishment needed you to be mad about something. So they manufactured these awful race relation hoaxes. Politics have always been bad, Jason. I think it's important to distinguish the fact that politics have always been politicking. It's always been corrupt. But the life that you lived, the society you functioned in, the culture, the values, everything that you experienced in your day-to-day life, it was objectively better. Yeah, and so you and I could argue about 80s versus 90s here. I am biased. I'm going to say the 90s was the best time to be a kid.
I'll just say the whole 80s, 90s era was fantastic. And I look at what these poor kids go through. Like, we had black friends, we had Asian friends. Black people made fun of me as a white guy for white characteristics. And I'll be honest, I made fun of my black friends for black characteristics. One of the stories I like to tell, when I was 18 years old, I moved from rural Minnesota to a very black neighborhood in North Minneapolis, which, if anybody knows the Twin Cities, North Minneapolis you are the ethnic minority if you're a Caucasian. And I remember walking into my store. I was a department manager. My company had moved me helped me move to the cities. And I'm like, only white dude there. And like, we were just dudes. Like, I was working, I had commissioned sales teams, I was teaching them. And after work, they're like, you're all right. You want to go get a beer? I walked into a VFW, only white dude in the place. And the grief those guys gave me was just funny. And then the jokes that I gave them back, like, we were just guys. And maybe it's a good time to transition to that Reddit post, because I think this floats around every now and then. I don't even know who wrote it to attribute it to them, but
Jason, can I hop in really fast before you read this?
Yeah.
Anna just proved my point about why immigrants should not be allowed to vote and why we need to stop immigration here. Her final comment that I'm going to focus on, and then we're moving on here. I don't understand how people can laugh about the way our people are being treated because it's not your family. The giveaway here is that Anna says, our people. Anna will never identify as an American. Anna will always identify as an immigrant. And however more millions of immigrants come into this country, those will be her people. Anna, do you not see the problem with this? You yourself do not identify as an American, and I have a big problem with people living in America not identifying as an American. I'm done with Anna, Jason. I think we're moving on. We're not going to change minds here, but I think we have finally exposed. She kind of exposed herself here. They're not our people. It is either you're an American or you are not an American. And if you're not an American, get out.
Right. Oh my God, Stuart coming in hot on the Facebook. My name's Stuart. Illegals bought a 50-acre farm near me, building a large house with no permits, aren't paying taxes, and the county can't do anything. So why should they be able to get away with that? Create their own village with no permits. How do you think that's fair to taxpayers? 100%. And Anna, oh, we lost Anna. Oh my gosh, bye. Do you not see how stupid and evil Trump is? Nothing but evil. Can't wait till he's gone.
She never
Anna, this is what's going to be funny too, and I'd encourage you to stick around. People want to frame Donald Trump as this Hitler wannabe. Oh my gosh. You have no idea what's coming
The
next.
backlash will be, it'll make Trump look like Bill Clinton in the 90s pretty soon.
Right? Yeah, and Fally. Bam, Stuart.
A little Emile Lagasse reference there. Bam!
We got Fally in the house. All we need is Kevin. We probably have a quorum. But anyway, so this Reddit post goes on. I can't see the top part of it.
Yeah, let me.
Can you read it, Todd? Can you see it?
I can read part of it. I don't know if we can zoom it in anymore, but let me pull it up from where we dropped it earlier here. So it says, the reason white racism is increasing is because this generation of young white men were raised to be the least racist generation of whites to ever exist in the history of the planet. Fact check true. That would be your and my generation, Jason, 80s and 90s. We grew up being taught that racism was bad, that we are all going to move past it and work together towards a better future. Even here in the most traditionally racist part of the country, nearly every young white boy in my generation grew up watching black athletes, black actors, listening to black musicians. It was all normal. We are 95% post-racial. So as we got older, we stuck our hands out in friendship to everyone like we'd been taught to. And then every non-white group on the planet came by and sucker punched us from behind, called us evil white devils, told us we deserved to die. I would just add in, they called you privileged. They called you the oppressor. We were ready and willing to move on from the past, and the rest of you weren't. Instead of shaking our hands and marching off together, you chose revenge against the only white people who've ever let their guard down. So now you won't be our friends. We're reforging the identity we were taught to shed. Damn.
Yeah, and I gotta say, this just really hits me in the feels. So, like, I'm on the Wayne Dupree podcast. Wayne and I, he's a few years older than me. He grew up a poor black man. I grew up a poor white man. We have a lot of conversations. Both of us are over the racism stuff. Like, we give each other grief. We laugh. We joke. I don't identify that he's a black guy. He doesn't identify that I'm a white guy. We're just two normal dudes. And this is what happened. And this isn't even Todd and I. Todd and I kind of made it through this. We got through much of our life. Young white men growing up, and we have a couple business partners on the American Tribune that are in their 20s, and they lived this. Here's some poor kid, some white dude growing up in school with some liberal teacher telling him he's the white devil and you owe ancestors money and you have white privilege. This other kid gets more points on their test than you. I mean, and Todd, you can talk about the educational aspects of it, but all this happened to this young generation of white men who didn't deserve any of it. Now, I'm not talking about old guys like me or Todd who lived in a little different era. I'm talking about what's happened. And since the 60s, when the country, from the 60s to the 80s, we started moving into like a post-racial thing. You saw, different races being represented in everything. I think at that point, it was probably okay to have things like affirmative action to encourage hiring of black people. But we're 60 years past that now. And it's not enough. We need more. Now we need this. Now we need that. And I think Americans are like, just shut up and do your stuff. Live your life. I tell the story about Wayne Dupree. We both grew up poor. I grew up white. He grew up black. And now we both did pretty well for ourselves. And now our kids are set with a running start. So his kids and my kids, even though his are black, mine are white, are like off to the same path, and they're over it. They wouldn't even talk about race if the media didn't make it a thing. And calling these young men white devils was going to end up being a really bad idea.
Mm-hmm. As Thomas Sowell would say, and I got to paraphrase, I haven't committed this to memory yet, but racism is kept alive on life support by all these grifters and politicians that use it to divide the country and then make you angry. Because if you're angry, you're more easily manipulated and controlled here. I said I was done with Anna, but we dropped the P word. So Hitler didn't stick. Evil and stupid didn't stick. So we had to drop the P word, Anna. You got us. Yep. I'm sure that they sat on that information for 3 election cycles. Are you listening to yourself? Have you not seen the alleged Ashley Biden journal? Have you not seen all the videos of Joe Biden testing his nostrils out? Absolutely wild here. You never cared about the Epstein list until 2 weeks ago when Donald Trump was in the Epstein list, because it turns out rich dudes know each other in South Florida together. I can't.
Right. And what's funny too is if you go back on somebody like her timeline, in 2017, she was saying Trump was a Russian plant. In 2020, he was an insurrectionist. And it's funny that this Epstein stuff I get a kick out of. When we launched our business like 3 years ago, that one of the first projects we did was an Epstein expose. And people like Anna were calling us conspiracy theorists and QAnon believers and whatnot. We did deep dives. We even looked into Trump's connection, what it was, what the court documents said. Great series on the American Tribune.news, 9-part series. I think Todd wrote some of those, if I remember right. But anyways, it was insane how nobody talked about it. Now it's everything everybody on the left wants to talk about. But getting back to this, should we play that video, Todd, with the white guy and the black guy?
Yeah, full disclosure, I think a little language sneaks through here. So if you have your kids watching, you've been warned.
Isn't being white, bonehead. Privilege is living in government housing and calling people oppressors while they pay your bills. Get it? I'm done pretending that any of this bull makes sense. You want to talk about privilege? You want to talk about real privilege? Real privilege is wearing $200 sneakers when you haven't worked a day in your life. Privilege is walking around with $300 Beats headphones while you're living on food stamps, while you're on public assistance, and it's paid for by people who wake up and grind every day. Privilege is having the latest smartphone with unlimited data and having zero idea where the bill goes because somebody else is always picking up the tab. Privilege is being able to protest every little thing that offends you without worrying about calling in sick to work because you don't have a job. Privilege is being able to cheat, lie, fail over and over again in life and still get bailed out while people who play by the rules get punished. That's privilege. This isn't about race. This isn't about class. This is about accountability. We've got a culture that rewards victimhood and demonizes work ethic and responsibility. Meanwhile, the people holding everything together for the rest of society, they get taxed into the ground. Their businesses get choked by regulation, and they get personally vilified for speaking up and saying that this is bullshit. You want to talk about privilege? Then start with the people who've never paid the price, but who also scream the loudest. Because they've never had to build anything. They've never had to defend anything. They've never had to carry any real weight. And the reason they get away with it, it's because we don't live in a society of strong men anymore. No. That's been dismantled on purpose over the last 50 years. Because a society of strong men would never put up with any of this bullshit. And that's exactly why they came after us first.
And he is so deadly accurate, yo. Y'all been sending me videos of people that have been hit.
I'm fired up, man. I got goosebumps listening to that speech.
Yeah, what's your take on it?
He's 100% true. And like the title of the show is, intentionally ruined America. And he makes the point they went after strong men first because then it is easier to get away with everything else that followed.
Right. I got to say, too, Anna just won't quit us. I love Anna. I hope she comes back every week. You made a comment about how I'm bothered about how I'm standing up for my people. Whoa. Oh, Anna, do you see any white immigrants being dragged in the street? Any other race? 99% are Hispanic, Latinos. Of course, they're my people, but most important, they are human. God looking down on you, disgusted. Anna, first of all, the reason the illegals are being drug out that are mainly white or mainly different races is because that's who they've brought in. When they brought in 50 white people from South Africa, everybody lost their mind. Like all the left, you screamed it was racist. So yeah, the vast majority are of different ethnic races. But you gave it up in your one comment how you identify with people based on race instead of based on your American status. Can you imagine if I said, I'm a white person, white people are my people, and you other people, like, you could never say or do that if you're white people, which is what this comment, this video is going into. It's, you have Sydney Sweeney. We've had a lot of fun with that on our website, but She comes out and says, like, hey, look, I'm a beautiful white woman with big knockers. And everybody's calling her racist and a Nazi dog whistle. But you think it's 100% appropriate for you to say, oh, well, they're Hispanic, they're my people. They are not your people. Your people should be Americans, whatever our racial makeup is. Until you understand that, you're like, I don't even know what to say to you. Like, God, I just hope you don't have the right to vote. It's idiotic.
Yeah, well, see my podcast on why voting is too easy. But Jason, I do have to make this point. So you and I are we're remembering a time when it was post-racial. America was post-racial in the 80s and then into the 90s here. People were moving on, and of course the elites couldn't have that, so they had to drag us back down to the mud. But woke is just short-term. It's a euphemism for anti-white. Like, wokeness started as an anti-white movement. I think Anna's comment is also exemplifying the fact that, like, white people will always be the villain. And so while I appreciate this guy's video here, making it a point that it's not race, it's not class, it's about accountability and working hard and overcoming, there is truth to that. But I think we would be remiss to be like, we're all just going to move on here. And you can't ignore the fact that there is a real anti-white movement in Dem politics. That is a core position of their platform, is how can we steal from whites, push whites down, elevate everybody else. And so when you fight this battle, when you call out this battle, I don't want to be in that position to be just like, all right, I identify as white first, because I've never identified as white. I've identified as a lot of other things: son, father, husband, athlete, you name it. White never crossed my mind, but they have pushed us into that corner where we need to look out for one another, because I don't know how you have an America without a white majority, a white Christian majority. It goes part and parcel with this great country here. It's not an accident necessarily. So they're making us look at the world that way. And you got the Annas out there that are just reinforcing that viewpoint. I don't want it to be, but that's the reality here. And I go back to this. I think millennials relate perfectly to this. Like, you grow up, you're friends with everybody, you learn about Martin Luther King for an entire school year because he was such a great man. Go to our Substack to learn otherwise about that. And then nobody else got the message. And so it's like, well, what am I supposed to do with that? Nobody else is going to move on. Then why am I moving on?
Right. Yeah. If you're still in the year of the Lord, 2025, and you still think black people are oppressed, and you still think that we need to do all these carve outs for other races, you do not understand the American experiment. And even she just keeps digging herself a bigger hole. My son's black. Black people are my people. Those who stand for good are my people. Anna, you're so close. Americans should be your people. Todd and I should be your people, even though we're white dudes. Like, everybody should be our people. Whatever race, ethnicity, watches this show and just loves America, these should be our people. It should not be delineated based on racial characteristics. But should we hear this guy's response? I thought it was a great response.
We should. I wonder if Anna would consider this guy who agreed with that message. Is that your people, Anna, by the way? Like, they're always just like, yes, I look at things through their lens of race. Black people are my people. Until a black person says something that Trump would support, and then Anna doesn't know what to do with that information. Like, I thought I was on Team Black, but then this black guy made a conservative America First comment, and now I'm all sorts of confused here. I'm surprised Anna hasn't stroked out yet. But Anna, let us know if this black guy is part of your people too.
Single point. And let's just be absolutely clear. And the reason why they have to talk like this, and when I say they, I'm talking about white people that are disgusted at what the cultural norms are, and black people basically complaining. And I don't even think it's black people, of course. I think it's black culture. And there's a certain demographic of people, of black people, that are the loudest. They complain the most. Every single thing is racism. They've never experienced racism. They've never employed nobody. They've never actually went and did the things that would make you a productive member of society. They always talk about tax the rich. And then let's throw in the white apologists on top of that. You know, I was watching and then I reviewed a video of a black woman that was going off on a black guy that was working at Walmart. And the white woman at the end, if you watched it all the way to the end, was apologizing to the woman, and she wasn't even familiar with the fact that the woman had basically offended and threw off and was trying to fight the guy that was just doing his job at Walmart. And so every last one of these people are easily offended but never take any accountability for the role that they play in their lives.
I gotta say, this guy, it's not coincidental that he grew up in the same era, it looks like, from the gray in his beard, that guys like Todd and I did. Like, that dude don't care if you're black or white. He cares if you're a piece of trash or not. He cares if you're a productive member of society. He talks about things like working hard, contributing to civilization, all those sorts of things. That guy is an American. That is somebody who I would have at my barbecue. That is somebody I would go on the wall with. I don't care what his race is. I identify that man as an American before I identify him as anything else.
I didn't want to do it, Jason, but Anna wants to get into the philosophical, the moral debate here. I would guess Anna is an ungodly woman here, but talking about morality, what you do and what you are defending. Anna, let me make this plain and simple for you. When you defend criminals, you ignore the victims. So what side of morality are you on? Are you defending the violent, illegal criminals, the people that steal from law-abiding, tax-paying citizens? I'm taking the side of the victims here, of the taxpayers, of the law abiders, the American citizens that want to have a prosperous, high trust, functioning society. You have taken the side of the people that would tear this country apart. Spare me your morality nonsense, you godless soul.
James hits a nail on the head too. I love that we got James on here every week now on the Rumble.
Alabama.
James always has very insightful comments. What Trump is doing is not a race issue. It's a legal issue. It's people like Anna that make it racial.
Yeah.
I still maintain the Democrat Party is the most racist party I've ever seen. These liberal beliefs. Like, I love the videos where it's like, it's racist for voter ID. Like, you're saying you think black people can't get a license. Are you kidding me? Like,
are you saying black
that might be the most racist thing I've ever heard?
Yeah. When I went to college, Jason, they had to get rid of it. Was like a liberal arts college, just these stupid, expensive little things that they have in Minnesota. They had to drop the ACT, SAT requirements so they could diversify. Like, Dems, are you just saying blacks are too stupid to go take the same test that I took? Do you need affirmative action and DEI because you're too stupid and incapable to get the same job that I have? Like, Dems are the most racist people I have ever come across.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of racism, Todd, as we're rounding up on the 45-minute point here, I think we need to start talking about colonialism. Let's take a much less controversial topic and talk about colonialism. And I will give a preface too for people. For those who have enjoyed looking at race back through the lens of the 80s, our chat was pretty active on it. We're going to do some 80 flashback stuff. But it's going to have some music in it, and we can't play it on some of these platforms because even if you play it, they're going to give you a copyright strike. But over on the Rumble, we can play it and we can talk about it. We can relive some of our childhood memories. So I'll encourage you. Well, Todd, you do a better job explaining it than I do.
Which video are we talking about here, Jason?
Well, we're going to play the one concert one, and we're going to play the Hulk Hogan one. But no, how do people find Rumble?
All right. Well, folks, it is just like YouTube. If you use, I use YouTube. I don't want to support Google, but I don't know, YouTube's got everything. So it's just like YouTube, but instead of red, it is green. It is rumble.com. You can search out the American Tribune. That is our channel. And if you want to go to my podcast, it's a separate Rumble channel, the American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. But our Rumble channel, again, because when we cut the Facebook feed, I wonder if Anna is going to find us over on Rumble. Anna, I am personally inviting you to rumble.com. Look for the American Tribune. You'll still see us in the live feed there. Mega Tent's big enough for everybody. If you listen long enough to the show, I guarantee we will change your mind. I'm a believer that everybody can fit in the America First tent. It is not controversial. It should not be controversial that you want this country and the people living in it to be as prosperous as possible. So, Anna, you are personally invited, but everyone else on Facebook, we got Red Snapper. I love the name. We got Kara. We got a lot of Rumble comments here. But go to rumble.com. Again, if you want to get the app on your phone, it's a little green play button on your app. Rumble.com, the American Tribune.
Right. Now, let's dive into colonialism. Now, just to kind of frame this up, and this is where I'll give a shout out to Todd's podcast at the American Tribune Live, and our partner Will does a lot of writing about historical topics on www.theamericantribune.news. And colonialism is one of the most falsely reported, talked about issues, I think, in common times. People use colonialism as a slur. You're a colonizer. No, well, I think we were conquerors. I don't think we colonized America. I think we conquered it. And the fact that there were Native American tribes fighting each other for the land, and the Europeans just were better at it and took the land. Like they're completely okay if the Ojibwe and the Sequoia Indians killed each other to decide who needed the land. But when the white people and the Europeans come in and say, well, we're stronger than both of you, now we're going to take it, like suddenly it's a bad thing. But if you go back historically, colonialism, and Todd's an educator, he can correct me, but anywhere between the 1500s and the 1800s, you had Europe. That was really the cradle of civilization. You had courts, you had property ownership, you had roads, infrastructure, medicine, the things that were the foundation for what we consider civilized society. Those people took their prosperity, they traveled around the world to establish outposts in less developed countries to bring those countries civilization, infrastructure, roads, written language. We did a whole episode on South Africa. When the Dutch landed in South Africa, they didn't understand what property ownership was. They didn't have the wheel. They didn't have written language. Meanwhile, the Europeans show up with all these things and more.
You are live.
Kev,
welcome
we
aboard.
are live. And but anyway, so they went in, they established, they built civilization, and now somehow in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, all those outposts of civilization in other countries were demonized in the great demigod of democracy, representative democracy, and they've got rid of those evil colonizers and kicked them out of the countries. Todd, what you're much more educated than me. What did I miss in my description?
Well, I always like to point out the fact that before Europeans came to America, there was a thriving market for just murder and rape and pillaging and mayhem and scalping and child sacrifice without any whites present in the entire Western Hemisphere. These dudes were fighting each other for land, resources, bodies. I remember the name Genghis Khan. He seemed to do a couple of things here as he strode east on his horseback. So humanity has practiced slavery and has practiced conquest. These are the two core elements of just the human experience. Kev, I have kept this just for you on my Friday show. By the way, Todd's got Burger King light background just for Kev ever since he brought it up a few weeks back, so I'm keeping it now. It was fine when everybody else did it, and then suddenly when whites did it better and actually made life better, they got rid of the Aztec practice of human child sacrifice. They introduced medicine and rights to human beings. That's bad. It's bad when things get better for people here. So you got to point it out. In a vacuum here, it was not whites just doing this. It was everybody doing this. And whites banished the practice of slavery. Europeans did. They introduced all these wonderful things. And so now you have whites that go into Africa, Jason. This is where I'm a little confused because whites would go to Africa. They'd settle it. They'd make it better. They'd create prosperous societies. And then they got kicked out because you can't have a prosperous white civilization. And I think you wanted to move into this current event story where colonization is good again. Whites going into Africa is good again.
Right. Well, should we start with the video clip when they're talking about colonizing Mars or colonizing the moon?
Let me just say I am fully on board with colonizing the moon if we can get there.
Right. Yeah, let's start with that clip and listen to how this is framed up.
Or if we want to live forever, all right, we're going to need another planet.
So is that the moon? Because
I don't want to live on the moon.
Right. Will it serve as a functional life source eventually for human beings? And B, we know how the age of colonialism worked on this planet. Should we be trying to colonize and saying that there's a keep-out zone that not other countries can participate in having?
Well, the real problem with the colonization history in Western civilization is that there were people already there. Right? There are no moon beings that were displaced.
As far as we know.
I gotta say, this whole comment is insane. Notice the first thing he said, Todd, and this is what stuck out to me on this clip. Do you want to go to the moon? Oh, I don't want to go to the moon. Like, I don't want to have the adventurous spirit to travel to a foreign planet and be part of building whatever amazing thing has built. These losers like Neil deGrasse Tyson will be like, oh my God, no, I don't want to put in the hard work. Now, Todd, let's say Elon Musk pulls this off. And let's say he makes a 5-star resort on the moon. It's incredibly profitable. It's luxurious. Do you think some liberal idiot like Neil deGrasse Tyson is then going to want to hop in the spaceship and go to the moon?
It's wild to me, Jason. I got to say, though, the spirit here, I think this is what delineates real men from fake men like this. I grew up on this quote. I think I was like 5 years old, and my dad was like, son, sit down. I'm going to tell you about George Mallory. So George Mallory climbed Mount Everest, and they had asked this guy like over 100 years ago, why did you climb it? And he said, because it's there. There's just something baked into the cake of this entrepreneurial, industrious, adventurous spirit. Like, I'm just going to go do this because I can, or because I want to, or I want to see if I can do it. And then Neil deGrasse Tyson's like, no, I don't want to.
Well, yeah. Oh my gosh. And Jason Perry can't get to the moon. Y'all are idiots. I got to ask Jason Perry. My name's Jason too. Nice to meet you, Jason. Do you think we went to the moon in the 60s, or are you, I think the moon's weird. I don't know if I'm convinced if we ever got to the moon, but I'm just saying that, yeah, I'm fascinated to know if he thinks we got to the moon. But back to Neil deGrasse Tyson. So you have, let's apply this to colonialism. You have these Anglo-Europeans. They said, hey, we're going to strike out, build our fortune. We're going to go bring civilization and do hard, difficult things. We covered it in our South Africa episode where it was these guys went to this unsettled land. Everybody wants to say, oh, my fault, this guy would have been to ask him if he thinks Neil Armstrong is a colonizer. Maybe. But anyways, back to the Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like the Europeans had settled South Africa. Like they went to the wilderness. There was nothing there. They built roads, farms. I mean, there were some indigenous tribes that were fighting over the land that they settled. But the only reason why people moved there was because of the civilization that the South African, the Afrikaners, as they call them, mainly Dutch, they built like towns, cities, all this stuff. And just because there were natives on the continent, then all of a sudden they were bad people and they wanted in on it. So these losers like Neil deGrasse Tyson, they would not want any part of Mars. They would not want, or the moon. They would not want any part of building it, settling it, figuring it out. But once it's successful, they would show up and they would demand reparations for like, oh my gosh, you guys made all this money from mining moon rocks and precious earth minerals. Like, you need to give us a cut of that.
Well,
am I wrong?
It's even crazier too. This is how much they hate themselves and hate this country. If China developed a colony on the moon first, they'd be like, good for China. Look how advanced they are. Look how great they were at engineering a moon base. Like they have no principles when it comes to this. He is looking through the world through a lens of just hating everything about his life here and the country that gave him everything. No, we shouldn't do that because that's colonization. But if country B over here goes to the moon, he's like, great job, country B. Like, complete clown show here. And again, to repeat the point, every human being in history was part of a culture or civilization that either did the conquering or was conquered. This is not unique to Europeans. And by the way, Jason, did you know that Europeans fought each other on the continent for a while before they started spreading out? And then we also had like 2 world wars on the European continent. So how do they explain any of this?
You know, it's fascinating too, because sharing personal information, I've told people a long time watching the podcast, my greatest genetic makeup is Native American. My great grandma was 100% Sequoia Indian. And so if I had to identify, I actually have enough Native American blood that I can legally claim to be a Native American. Now, my dad is like, we're just Americans. We're not going to call it that. But it's really funny because if you go into Native American history, they were pretty brutal people. They had slavery, war, rape, like all the things. They make Europeans look pretty tame by nature. They just hadn't developed their civilization. And if you look at any map of the United States, study any history, now they didn't have a lot of like written language and stuff, so some of that's hard to decipher. But tribes went back and forth, conquering each other all the time. And to act like this is some Anglo thing is really fascinating. I do have high cheekbones.
He also wrote a cookbook. Kev, you should check out Jason Robertson's cookbook. It's got some great traditional recipes in it too.
Kung Pao Chow.
Hey, that's not native.
Oh, and I got to say, switching back to my other friend, Jason. Jason, we can be friends. He thinks we didn't go to the moon. I love you, Jason. I hope you tune in every Friday. We get a little wild around here sometimes talking about conspiracy.
All right,
theories.
Jason, I'm going to say it. I have a lot of questions. I think the other Jason and I could have a fascinating conversation. There are a lot of questions I have about the technology available, about some of the things you would have to pass through on your way to the moon, some of the evidence that is on the moon, apparently. And then, of course, they lost all the available technology and information, and we can't go back. I guess I got to say, Jason, I have a lot of questions.
You know, one of my favorite shows I listen to, and Todd's an enjoyer too, the Y-Files. I can't get Wayne to watch Y-Files. I'm like, man, you're going to love the Y-Files. But AJ has a great line where he just says the moon is weird. And he doesn't like to make any declarative statements about the moon stuff. But like all the things that you just pointed out, the moon is just weird.
Weird.
Like the dark side of the moon's weird. It's how it travels around the earth is weird. Its composition's weird. It's all weird.
It's all weird. I mean, what are the odds that an equinox or you can have the sun be a certain size at a certain distance from the earth, and then the moon is a certain size at a certain distance from the earth, and as they pass one another, it is a perfect blackout. I don't know. That alone is just like, who created the universe? This is not by accident that the moon, the sun, the distances here, they block one another out. It's wild.
It's all weird. But now let's get back to colonizing the moon as we wrap up the first hour. And this will be kind of a good bridge because we're going to start saying inappropriate things, at least on some of these platforms. But can you pull up the Mr. Beast tweet?
Yeah, here we go. Let me, I have so many tabs open right now. Here we go.
Todd with the tabs, our crack production staff. I saw this tweet on the Twitter, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Mr. Beast was getting some grief. He started Team Water like a year ago, and he decided, this YouTuber, to travel to Africa and do this great thing, building wells in Africa. And it was funny because some of the people started giving him grief about building the wells. Is it a scam? Is it not a scam? And it, like, I thought, oh, hey, you know, I believe prosperous people should help other people. That doesn't mean we give money to the government, who then gives money to foreign nations. That means I, as an individual, if I see some, like, we give a lot of money to our church then gives money to different organizations they support and they audit and they make sure. But it was fascinating because I saw this Mr. Beast thing, and then I zoomed out and I thought about it. And that was my reply to the tweet was like, how is it in the year of the Lord 2025? Well, actually what I said was, while I admire all the work Mr. Beast is doing on a human level, can we talk about the fact that these nations aren't even able to provide a clean water supply? And we just heard Neil deGrasse Tyson, which there's a good thing over in the Rumble chat talking about, like, why does he use his douchey name? But can we talk about the colonizers? Can we talk about that? But Todd, we probably can't talk about that on Facebook and YouTube. They'll get mad at us.
I have a lot of thoughts, though. I'm going to bite my tongue as we transition over for a minute here. Again, Anna over on Facebook. You can find us at rumble.com. Search out the American Tribune. There is hope for you yet, I think. Although Peter on the Facebook here, as we're signing out, just says Anna is probably too far gone and needs to be deported. Listen, Anna,
I'm with you.
On the fence. If you join us on Rumble, I'm willing to keep you around a little bit longer here. But everyone else on Facebook here, again, Facebook is just great. Peter, that's a great Rumble comment. You can find us over on Rumble as well. Don't want to scroll through everything. Jason Perry, my moon guy, you can find us on Rumble as well. Everyone else on Facebook, we got to cut the feed. Jason and I are about to get spicy talking about Mr. Beast colonizing Africa and wondering why don't they dig their own wells and what happens to the wells that we do dig. So lots to talk about here on this just one tweet. We are rumble.com. Search out the American Tribune. We are still live for the next half hour. Other than that, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for finding us on Facebook. We are just getting started, though. It is the best half hour of the week. We say it every week, and we mean it.